You know, if you've ever been to a casino, they say scared money never wins. It doesn't. If you make decisions based out of fear, you're never going to succeed.
Welcome to the No One Ever Told Me podcast, where we talk about the things that no one ever tells you that you really need to know to be successful and thrive in business and in leadership. Our podcast hails from Nashville, Music City, USA, so it's only fitting that our first guest is a music business legend. Today, my guest is Rusty Gaston. Rusty is the CEO of Nashville Sony ATV Music Publishing, but like so many executives, his journey didn't start at the top. Rusty, I'm so glad you're here, man. Let's dig in.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's great to be here.
How long have you worked in the music business?
26 years. I moved to Nashville August 17th, 1996. I was working in the music business also in Dallas before I moved here. But I moved here that day, August 17th, 96. I drove into town listening to a Charlie Daniels super hits. I remember seeing the skyline of Nashville and crying and thinking, what in the world have I done? That I had left a full scholarship to college. I had broke up with my girlfriend. I was an only child. I left all my family. I left a great job, all because I knew in my gut this is where I was supposed to be and where God was calling me. And I had met a music publisher who actually had a company with Sony Publishing in Nashville. And we met in Dallas, and we kind of cosmically hit it off, and he explained to me what he did, and I thought, oh my Lord, like this is it. This is what I was meant to do. I had no idea what it was called, and I finally met somebody that did it. And he told me, he said, hey, I have a company and I'm selling it and I'm starting a new company with Warner Chappell and I'm looking for somebody to help me. If you come to town, like, hey, why don't you help me? And that was the extent of the conversation. And I basically took that as an invitation and I packed it all up and moved here. I didn't know one single soul. I applied for a Discover credit card and I went and enrolled at Belmont University and charged as much as I humanly could to it and got loans. And I've took classes at Belmont to finish my degree in the morning, like at 7:30, 8 in the morning. Then I took classes at 5, 6, 7 at night so I could work all during the day. And man, as scary as it was the greatest decision I ever made. And it has been more than a dream come true every single day.
Holy cow, that's incredible. So the music business is an interesting, unique kind of business, right? And over the 25 years you've been in it, it has changed dramatically. So maybe just like from a 30,000 foot view, why don't you tell us how the music business works and maybe more specifically how the publishing business works?
Yeah, I have always been a music publisher since I've been here in town. And what that means is we basically manage the careers of songwriters. And I just always have approached music publishing as it's my job to manage the career of a songwriter the same way an artist manager would manage an artist's career. And that is creating opportunities for that songwriter, that is managing the brand of that songwriter. It's helping create a brand for that songwriter. It's waving their flag. It's marketing them. Over the years, it's kind of changed in that sort of management philosophy of songwriters. That is really what publishing has become, especially in Nashville, because it's handling every single detail of that songwriter's business, from every single day in their calendar of who they're going to be writing with, putting together strategy behind that. It's taking their songs, it's casting their songs, it's pitching their songs to artists. It is making relationships for them. You know, for me, I also view it as, hey, for that songwriter, we're trying to do everything we can to help them create at 100% of their ability. And if they have distractions in their life going on, I see it as part of our job is to help remove those distractions so that they, more days than not, can bring 100% of themselves into the room to write those songs that are going to impact people's lives.
Talk about how you guys monetize that effort, because that's a monumental effort to take a creative person's world, try to scale back and limit those distractions so they can focus on doing something that's really unique, and not a lot of people can do it at the level you guys have.
Man, it's a joy, but anytime you hear music on the radio, on the television, in the elevator, in a public place, the songwriter and the publisher is getting paid for it. That doesn't necessarily mean the artist singing it. You know, if you hear Tim McGraw singing a song on the radio, he's not necessarily making money, but the songwriter and the publisher are. But when you go see Tim McGraw in concert and you buy a ticket and you buy a T-shirt, hey, the songwriter and publisher are not making money on that. Tim McGraw is. So anytime you're ever hearing music, the songwriter and the publisher is getting paid for it. Anytime you stream a song, anytime you download a song, anytime you buy an old-fashioned CD or vinyl record, you know, there are royalties that get paid to songwriters and publishers for that.
That's great. It makes a ton of sense. So let's go back to your story just for a minute. You talked about moving from Texas to Nashville. Like, was music something you always loved? Like, when did you know, like, man, I've got to work in the music business?
Man, I was incredibly lucky to have, I had two like really God-defining moments in life. And I did not grow up knowing anything about the music business. Nobody in my family was in music. I didn't know anybody in music. I didn't even know what a music publisher was until I met one. But I remember being in elementary school. I can see it like we're standing there right now. I remember being in the locker room, and I remember standing up on a bench and looking down on three of my friends, and they were all singing the Beastie Boys' Brass Monkey. And I had this moment come over me where I thought, why are you guys just now singing this? I played this for y'all last school year before we left for break. And I don't know why, but that moment, it just froze in time for me. You know, I spent countless hours. All I would want to do if my mother went to, Walmart is for me to run to the music section. Or if I went to the mall, I would always want to go to the music store. I would spend all of my time in the music store looking at records, looking at the back of them. I would spend countless hours in my room reading the liner notes and just sitting with my feet propped up on the speaker, listening to this music over and over. But I realized the songs that I was most attracted to were the songs that eventually became popular. I realized that I had a natural knack for identifying the songs that would eventually become popular. And I knew there had to be a job in there somewhere. My father had told me one time that, and I was probably, 12 or 13 at the time, he told me everybody has a job doing something. And whether it is manufacturing this table we're sitting at, whether it's making the food we're going to eat later, whether it's growing that food, whatever it is, everything you see, somebody has a job doing that, doing something. And so I pieced together, somebody has to figure out which songs on this record should be the ones that get played on the radio. And I knew I was good at that, and I literally just chased that down.
Take us to your publishing company.
Hey, we're going to come back to that. I'm going to back us up just a hair because it's a bigger question of what you're saying. I think it's something that you are innately born with when it comes to entrepreneurism or being an entrepreneur. When I was little, my great-grandmother used to get so mad at me because she had a flower garden, and I would take my wagon and I would go cut just the flowers off of all her flowers, and I'd put them in the wagon, and I would just go from door to door trying to sell these flowers. But I didn't even realize you were supposed to cut it with a long stem so people could put it in a vase. I would just show up at the door, knocking on a person's door, holding, just the petals of the flower, trying to sell this. And I grew up with a stepfather that was a entrepreneur. So I was around businesses. And when I was a senior in high school, I got a job performing at Six Flags Over Texas. And I sang and danced and played guitar and stuff. But during that, when I was going to college, there was 1 month of the year that the performers at Six Flags didn't work, and it was February. So a friend of mine and I put together this singing telegram business because it was just out of necessity. We needed to make money. So we put together this singing telegram business called Romeo Cowboy, and where we took a rose and we wore a tuxedo top and Wrangler jeans and a cowboy hat, and we went and we sang somebody a country love song. And on that one day of Valentine's, we each made $2,000 a piece. We're like, well, this is fantastic. But at that same time, it's like the idea of making money is not hard. You just have to be willing to put in the work. But from that, I just came up with the idea of, hey, I need to make some more money. Well, my grandmother sewed, so I went and bought a pair of overalls and some fabric dye, and I had her dye them a crazy color. And I went to a preschool, and I introduced myself and said, hey, my name is Mr. Rusty, and I sing children's songs, and I charge $75 for 30 minutes. I want to come in and sing for the kids. And then I ended up getting booked all over Dallas-Fort Worth and played for these elementary schools when I wasn't in college and when I wasn't performing. But little did I know what I was doing was entrepreneurial, but it was natural to me. It didn't seem scary or, that was just, hey, I needed to make money. The idea of going and getting a job and applying somewhere, like that just never crossed my mind. It was, hey, yeah, I need to make money. Okay, well, here's ways I can do it. And I just chased it down like that. So leading to Nashville, in my first job, it was incredible, and it led to another great job running a publishing company for a really big producer. But in doing that, I had noticed that both of these companies, on paper, that they were having success, but on paper, they were not successful. And the companies were just kind of set up wrong. So it led, at first, me and a couple of friends of mine who were also entrepreneurs and really successful in the music business, we started talking, man, we can do this same thing and we can do it cheaper. And so we got together at night, we put together a business plan and we shopped it around, and everybody said, no, we're having no interest in that. So I had ended up approaching the company at Warner Chappell about, hey, these companies I have worked for you guys for about 8 years now, the way I view it is I have helped generate X number of millions of dollars for you, and I can do the exact same thing I've been doing for you for 15, 20% of what you're paying for it. And to my complete surprise, they said, hey, yeah, we're interested in that. And what ended up happening is they said, hey, just hold on, hold tight. We've got some changes going on and we'll get back to you, which means this is never going to happen. Well, at the time, there was a songwriter named Tim Nichols who wrote for Warner Chappell, and his publishing deal was coming up. And he's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame now, and he won a Grammy for writing a song called Live Like You Were Dying for Tim McGraw. He had just written that song, and his publishing deal was up, and he was wanting to do something different. He was wanting to start a company. And he had approached Warner Chappell about starting a company, and they said, hey, yeah, we're interested in that. And through that connection and through another mutual connection, somebody told him, hey, you should go talk to Rusty because I know he's got a plan put together. And we connected, and then we grabbed another mutual friend, songwriter of ours, and the three of us started this music in January 2006.
Okay, that's great. Time out on the business stuff. Fun question for a second. What's your favorite song that you've had nothing to do with? That you didn't work, your artist didn't cut it, your writers didn't write it? What's your favorite song outside of the stuff you've worked on?
Oh, man. I mean, that's like a tough question. I wish there was just something that just came to mind.
Something in your top three. You don't have to be the number one.
There's just so many. I would say the song Bésame Mucho. I have no idea why. It's a Latin standard. The song... oh gosh, there are just so many.
What about favorite song that you've worked? One of your writers wrote.
Man, there is a ton of them. I would say a song called Honeybee that Blake Shelton put out. Look, it's not rocket science, but it's everything I love about country music, is that it feels great. It's about love. It's a story told in a great way. It's what makes you want to turn the radio up. But since we are here, as we're recording this, we're going into Memorial Day weekend. I was involved with a song called I Drive Your Truck, which was inspired by a story on NPR where a father was out on Memorial Day weekend putting flags on soldiers' graves. And the songwriter, Connie Harrington, heard this story and ended up, they asked this father, how do you remember your son who passed away in the war? And he said, I drive his truck. And these songwriters got together, long story short, they wrote a song that we got to Lee Brice. He recorded. It was a big #1 hit record. But come to find out, the soldier that inspired this song, his name was Jared Monty, and he won the Presidential Medal of Honor and for saving countless soldiers. And he was killed in battle. And he is an absolute American treasure, an American hero. But hearing that song from its infancy of an idea to how it came along, to how it was pitched, to being recorded, and just its journey of coming out and touching lives. And still, I'm positive it will be one of the most performed songs this weekend as country radio plays songs that honor our country. And that's just what is so special about songs, because songs are just about emotion and they're about story, and it's about real emotion that touch people and make them feel something and make them want to feel that again and again. And there are so many. I'm so blessed and lucky to be involved with songs like that just simply tell stories and touch lives. It's incredible.
So good. I love that. I'll never listen to that song the same way again. I didn't know it had that much of a backstory. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
I heard one leader say one time that as you go up, there are just some things that you give up. So from that 20-year-old, 19-year-old driving to Nashville, you gave up a lot of stuff to make that trip. But as you've worked in publishing for these 25, 26 years, what are some of the things that you've had to kind of give up to take those next steps in your career?
I don't view any of them as giving them up. I will say that the music business, this is my personal opinion, the music business is a lifestyle choice. It's not a career choice. And I think anyone that is successful, especially as an entrepreneur, what they're doing is something they're passionate about, and that entrepreneurial lifestyle is a lifestyle choice, not a career choice. And what I mean by that is it's something that, look, please don't tell anybody this, but every single day that I have been here and worked, I would do it for free every day. I would figure out how to make money some other way just so that I could do in my spare time what I do for a living. I mean, that's how much I love it. And, the things that you give up when I say it's a lifestyle choice is, hey, I got married a lot later in life. Hey, that was right for me in my journey. Definitely people have said to me, man, you sacrificed so much of your life to focus on business. Man, to me, it wasn't a sacrifice at all. It was the plan that God had put before me and that He laid out for me. That was great. So I don't look at things like that as giving them up. It's like all the people I hang out with are all people I work with. It's always been that way. They're the people that you vacation with. They're the people you talk to on the phone at night. They're the people that you have jokes with. I think being an entrepreneur, it's not a thing where you go in and you clock in 9 to 5 and then you have a totally separate life over here. It is all mingled together and all one. So I don't view it as, if you're an entrepreneur, in my opinion, it's not something you give up. It's just something that you're naturally wired to chase down.
And so that tees us up because right now you're running an organization that you didn't start necessarily. So how do you take that mindset into a role where you've got the title CEO?
Yeah, man, I've got to be honest. Like that was really a tremendous transition that I did not see coming. It was not on my radar. I was cold approached about it. And, especially we're here in Nashville and in country music, Sony Music Publishing in particular is the largest publishing company on the planet, but it's been a 30-year leader in country music. And it's really the quintessential country music publishing company. I mean, the catalog is Hank Williams and Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton and all the music that made country music, and it's all there. So when I was approached about this, even though it was not something on my radar, it was a very easy decision, even though it was the hardest and most difficult decision I could ever make. But what's different about it is, I think walking into something that is a corporation and a big company, just with an entrepreneurial view in that, hey, be an entrepreneur, it is all about relationship. It's all about hands-on. It's all about service. And I think there was a time for a company like Sony ATV. There were leadership in place that on a global scale was about how do we make this company the biggest? And there was a leadership change globally over a year ago. And that new leader, his name is John Platt, and one of the greatest publishers and just humans out there and a champion for songwriters. But when he called me, he said, I've been brought here with a new challenge, and it's not to make this company the biggest. It already is. It's the challenge of how do we make this company the best. And he said, I've watched you build an organization that songwriters want to be a part of. I've watched you build a culture that songwriters wanted to be a part of, a destination that songwriters wanted to come to, and that's what I want you to do over here. And so there's a lot of it where, yes, I'm doing some things that are different just on a scale size, because I went from a boutique company that's really hands-on with maybe 20 people total to a organization that is really large with over 100 people. And so it's really about, for me, walking in the door. It's about creating culture that's about a family and a team, and empowering and encouraging songwriters. And I think everybody is taking to it well, and it's so far so good. We're 5 months in. It's going great.
Excellent. All right. So this is the No One Ever Told Me podcast. So this is a 2-part question since you have 2 hats on. What's something no one ever told you about owning your own publishing company? And then the second would be, what's something no one ever told you about wearing the executive hat, the chief executive hat?
Man, those are good questions. I would say something that no one ever told me is the levity of it that you really carry as an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is, man, I went into this as an absolute complete dreamer. I moved here as a complete dreamer. And I knew that, hey, if this worked out, fantastic. It's going to be amazing. But if it doesn't work out, like, I'm okay with that. I'm prepared to accept that and figure something else out. But as it became more and more successful, and there's employees and there's songwriters, and what they didn't tell me about this is I am taking other people's dreams into my hands, and their dreams mean every single bit to them as my dreams do to me. And when I'm helping make their dreams come true, that is actually what makes my dreams come true. But at the same time, this is their hopes and dreams we're dealing with, and everyone's hopes and dreams don't come to fruition. And it's heavy to carry that, because you personally feel so responsible for their hopes and dreams. And no matter what, as an entrepreneur, if you have any employees, man, you're carrying that person and their family's livelihood with you. And, you can't get lost in that every day, because then you'll start making the wrong decisions. I always told myself I was making decisions that, I was comfortable with the risk because I was the only person, responsible at the end of the day. Because at that point, I didn't have a family. I didn't have children, but now I do. And desperately every morning I wake up and I ask God to please allow me to still have the courage to make the same decisions that I would have made as an entrepreneur that, had no family responsible, because that's where the pure integrity comes in the decisions, is when you start getting scared. If you've ever been to a casino, they say scared money never wins. It doesn't. If you make decisions based out of fear, you're never going to succeed.
This is why we're having that conversation. That was so beautifully put. That was so good. All right, now talk about the things that no one ever told you in the CEO seat, because this is a new journey for you. And that makes a lot of sense from the entrepreneur standpoint. There's this gift of helping people come and realize their dreams. And there's the pressure that comes with that too. And that was probably an unexpected, you don't know those things going into it. So what do you not know? What did you not know? What did no one ever tell you about this new role?
I would think that people ask me, like, what are the things that kind of surprise me the most, or what's been eye-opening, and kind of similar to your question. I'll tell you, and I'll be vulnerable and tell this story no matter how it makes me look. When this went down, I went with a couple of friends of mine for a weekend getaway. And we went to Las Vegas, and we said, hey, we're going to go eat some steak dinners, see some shows, have a great weekend, spend a day or two, come back. It'll be fun. And I like going to Vegas, have a good time. But normally I usually, if I'm going for the weekend, I usually take a few $100s with me. And I always say, hey, if I come home with that, great, but I'm prepared to lose that. Well, this time I was like, man, this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip. I'm going with a couple of guys. This time, instead of taking a few $100s, I'm going to take like a couple $1,000s. And so I did that. And I got on the plane and I counted it. And I had all of that money plus $200 with me. And I had this moment of fear and anxiety that came over me. And it was, oh my gosh, I just figured out what this new job is all about. Is because being an entrepreneur at a boutique organization, I'm very comfortable gambling and taking risk with small amounts of money. But as I took a little bit more money, I took it with me, and I had it in my pocket, but I never took it out and gambled with it. And I got on this plane and I realized, oh my gosh, to win hundreds of dollars, you bet hundreds of dollars. And to win thousands of dollars, you bet thousands of dollars. And to win millions of dollars, you have to bet millions of dollars. And you have to be willing to do that. And in my new position, you got to be willing to bet millions of dollars. And it was a mindset shift that I had on this plane flying back home. It was just a real realization of, hey, you're now in a much bigger playing field. And yes, I know in my gut how to do this and how to operate this, but I now need to mentally and physically and emotionally be willing to transform into now being capable of playing on that bigger playing field. And, I feel like I'm making the transition and able to do that. But it was that experience. I really had this sort of out-of-body moment teaching of myself on this plane, where that was something that spoke to me, where I could really understand to say, oh man, okay, this is great. In this new scenario, I'm in this much bigger position now. It's going to require me to take bigger risk, that put more people's dreams in my hands and more hopes and more responsibility. And it's just I've got to be prepared to carry that burden that goes along with it.
So it's like the exponential potential requires exponential courage.
Amen. Yes, that's brilliant.
I just came up with that. It's no big deal. All right, last question. We'll get out of here. So not music business necessarily, but if you had 17-year-old Rusty in front of you or 25-year-old Rusty in front of you with a wide open discipline, doesn't have to be music business, what advice would you give to someone who's like up and coming? They're not sure how they want to respond to uncertainty, risk, and failure. What are you telling these younger guys and gals about what it takes to have that courage that we're talking about?
Man, I would tell them, first off, you absolutely can do it. It's going to happen to somebody, so it might as well happen to you. However, everyone is not cut out to be an entrepreneur, and that is okay. I know people that work in other industries, and they tell me, it's like, man, my boss doesn't give me enough to do. And I think to myself, wow, I've never even asked anybody like what to do. You just figure out what you need to do. But there are definitely people that are wired that way, and that's okay. That's great. And, I think one thing I would tell them is if there is anything else on this planet you could possibly envision yourself doing and think you would be happy with it, you need to go do that. The very best thing anybody could tell you is you need to go do that and give up on chasing down being an entrepreneur. But if in your heart you have this burning, yearning desire and there's nothing else possible you can do but chase this, then you absolutely have to chase it at all cost, because those are the people that are going to win and succeed.
Man, I'm so fired up right now. Rusty, thanks a ton for joining us today. This has been just a pleasure. I've been encouraged. My heart is like 10 times bigger than it's supposed to be right now listening to these stories. Thanks for being here.
Hey, you got it. Thank you so much. Best of luck.
That was such a fun conversation. Thank you for listening. If you would, tell a friend about the No One Ever Told Me podcast, hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcast, and make sure you join us for our next conversation.